Hey everybody, this is Ryan McClanahan with HistoryThroughCards.com. I hope you're all doing very well today. I've been a really big fan of Willie Stargell for a very, very long time, ever since I heard his story, and I wanted to tell you guys a little bit about Willie Stargell today. Um, I do have some cards here that I want to show you guys, and the first one I want to show you is his rookie card in 1963 Topps. I'll probably talk a little bit more about this particular card after I get through with his story here. But I just recently picked this up actually, so it is new to the collection. And then I also have not a complete run, but close to it, I think. This is 64. It's really, really great card. I really enjoy this. And then the 1965 looks like this. I really enjoy this. Again, this is a really great pose of Willie Stargell here. And most of his cards, like this, 66 Tops, I don't have the 1966 regular, but this is great. This also has Don Clendenin in it too, and I'll probably talk more about Don Clendenin in another video because he's just a really great ball player as well. And I know of Don Clendenin more on the 1969 Mets than him being on the Pirates, but I thought this was really great. So I don't have his regular 1966 here. I actually just bought it. So the 67 Willie Stargell is actually the first Willie Stargell card that I ever got for my collection, and I really like 1967 Tops overall. The funny thing is, I think that 1967 Tops. First off, I think they really outdid themselves this year, but I find a lot of the 67s to be pretty sharp compared to, like, say, 1968, which is right here. But the 68 set is a set that is growing on me steadily. I was never really a fan of it when I was a kid. I think the first 68 Tops that I bought was a Pete Rose, and it kind of got me into collecting vintage when I was a kid. It certainly did have its place for me to want to learn more about vintage, and I think it's one of the first vintage cards that I ever saw when I was, I think, in like the fourth grade or so. And then the 1970. And actually, you know what? Where is it? Oh, yeah. So I just picked up his 1969 Tops today, in fact. So this is new again to the collection. It's not really my favorite. For some reason, 1969 Tops kind of elude me. I'm not sure why. I don't have a whole lot in my collection, but I did have to pick up this for the Stargell collection. I'm not doing a run of Stargell's cards. At least I don't think I am. You never know what's going to happen. So, getting back to the 1970 here, I really like this card. I think it's a great pose. And 1970, I think are really nice looking cards. When you think of the 1970s, like you really don't think of like 1970 being kind of like, I don't know, hippie skippy, right? Like 1972 Tops. Really kind of a defining set of the 1970s, or at least the early 70s. You definitely know what decade that's from, but not necessarily so with the 1970 here. And then the 1971. Um, I've just started to collect 1971 Tops. Historically, for me, it's been a very difficult set, particularly because of trimming and coloration of the borders have kind of gotten me over the years. But that's why you have a black light on hand, which I typically do have. So uh, I do like this card. And the funny thing too is uh, on these teams, the Pirates teams, they had some great Pirates teams back in the 1960s and 70s. A lot of these teams featured Bill Mazeroski and Roberto Clemente as well. I'm a huge fan of Roberto Clemente, and I actually did know Bill Mazeroski a little bit. I did some artwork for him, but you typically don't think of the pitching staff on these Pirates teams, but they had some really great pitching staff too. So I don't want to leave those guys out. Uh, Again, I probably should do a video on Roberto Clemente at some point in time because he is one of my all-time favorite human beings, not just a ball player. And then the 1972 tops, which I really like, the colors on this particular card. I think they really pop and stand out. But this was actually kind of a difficult card for me to get for whatever reason. I think it was the borders that really got me. But again, a really, really nice card here. And then I have the 1973. I have a love-hate relationship with 1973 tops, but some cards look pretty nice. I think this is a really neat image. Some of the photography, again, is hit or miss in the 73s, but again, it's like a set that I really kind of like didn't think too much of, highly anyway. So I really do kind of enjoy most, not the most, but some of these cards in the set. This is actually one of them. Some of the images in the 73 set, you're not entirely sure what is going on in them, or who's actually being portrayed in the set. And lastly is the 1974 tops, which again I didn't really think too much of growing up, and uh, again it's a hit or miss set for me. But again, I'm a really big Willie Stargell fan, as you guys can see, and so I wanted to tell you a little bit more about Willie Stargell and his career. And I found a really neat article about that, so here we go. This is from the Anniston Star, Anniston, Alabama, April 10th, 2001. Pittsburgh's Prince. Willie Stargell's greatness wasn't limited to Baseball Diamond by Claire Smith. Having covered Major League Baseball for 19 years, the one absolute I know is that there are Hall of Fame people as opposed to Hall of Fame players. The former grace the game as much as the latter, and if you combine in one body both ingredients, you have something truly special. Willie Stargell was truly special. The phrase "larger than life" falls far short in describing the shadow cast across baseball by this gregarious gentle giant of a man who died Monday of a stroke. Not even the 12-foot statue of Stargell unveiled by the city of Pittsburgh on the eve of the opening of the Pirates' new stadium begins to tell the story. A truer measure of the man who was the loving patriarch of the legendary We Are Family Pirates teams of the 1970s was the tears that were guaranteed to be shed throughout the majors on Monday when the larger extended family learned it had lost Stargell far too soon at age 61. I tell you what, in the history of baseball, there is only one Pops, said Phil Niekro, a fellow Hall of Famer who choked back tears Monday as he recalled the golden era of baseball when his Braves teams battled Stargell's Pirates. He was the leader, the glue, the center for any club he was on, Niekro said. As a person, there was just so much wisdom. Talk about a gentleman. He was a prince, on and off the field. As alarming as this recent view of Stargell proved to be, nothing could destroy the more lasting image, let alone the legend. Not for those of us who will forever see Willie Stargell not only as the strongest of men, but also as the greatest of heroes and most cherished of friends. So today we dutifully, fondly pause and remember the Hall of Fame statistics, the unprecedented trifecta of being named most valuable player in the National League, the National League Championship Series and the World Series in the same year. The classic clashes between Stargell's family and Schmitty, the bull lefty, and the other Phillies, who bravely manned the ramparts in the war that was the Phillies-Pirates rivalry of the 1970s. Then there are those tape measure home runs that Stargell used to make the mightiest ballparks look small. Philadelphians need only look to the distant 600 level at the vet to recall the strength. Stargell visited those heights so often that only this week Jim Bunning, a fellow Hall of Famer, joked that the location of the Phillies' new ballpark would be just beyond Stargell's longest poke to the right field seats. Dodger Stadium, that pitcher's park cherished by Sandy Koufax, Don Drysdale, and Don Sutton, managed to hold every great National League slugger from Hank Aaron to Willie Mays to Stan Musial to Mike Schmidt, but Stargell cleared the outfield pavilion roofs with home runs sent clear to the distant parking lots of Chavez Ravine twice. Stargell gave no ground in any park. The man who swung bats resembling telephone poles as if they were toothpicks owned 7 of the 18 homers ever hit over the imposing right field roof at Pittsburgh's late great Forbes Field. At one time, he held the long-distance home run records in half the parks in the National League. To know Stargell was to know that his greatest strength came from within. This natural leader of men, the quiet breaker of barriers and believer in the human race as a family worth believing in, could prompt others to smile while commanding their total respect as easily as he wielded those tree trunk bats. Stargell could interest his tales of the California kid who was thrust into the middle of the integration movement when, as a teenager, he helped integrate the sophomore league in the Southwest. Stargell took you back to the front lines when he spoke of the day a Klansman greeted him at the gates of a ballpark in Plainville, Texas, by putting a shotgun to his head and daring him to play. Stargell played anyway, only to be all but undone when he mistook the backfire of an automobile for the shotgun blast he was promised if he took the field. "I went to my knees. My kidneys got weak," Stargell once told me during an interview. Willie Stargell showed how not to be bitter, how not to tear down when you can build so much up, whether it be a team, a league, a game, or a society. This is from the same newspaper. Family loses pops. Stargell's death touches baseball community by Alan Robinson. The family has lost its patriarch, Hall of Famer Willie Stargell, who led the Pirates to 2 World Series victories with his tape measure homers, died of a stroke Monday at age 61. He had been in failing health for several years with a kidney disorder, according to officials at New Hanover Regional Medical Center in Wilmington, North Carolina. The Pirates unveiled a 12-foot bronze statue of the man known as Pops on Saturday at PNC Park, where they played their first game Monday, only hours after Stargell died. Now, every opening day at PNC Park, everybody will know this is Willie Stargell's day, said Chuck Tanner, Stargell's manager from 1977 to 1982. He's up there, and he knows the Pirates are opening today. One of the greatest home run hitters ever in volume and distance, Stargell hit 475 homers, many of them soaring, majestic shots that rattled a pitcher's confidence. With Stargell's bat cleaning up for most of his 20-year career, the Pirates won World Series championships and NL pennants in 1971 and 1979, and 6 NL East titles from 1970 to 1979. He was inducted into the Hall of Fame in 1988. Stargell was a dynamic leader on the field and fatherly yet forceful presence off it. The 1979 Pirates were nicknamed the Family from the Sister Sledge song We Are Family, and Stargell said years later that it wasn't a misnomer. We won, we lived, and we enjoyed as one. Stargell said, "We molded together dozens of different individuals into one working force. We were products of different races. We were raised in different income brackets, but in the clubhouse and on the field, we were one." He distributed his coveted stars for extra effort to teammates, who proudly attached them to other ball caps. "We fought for those stars," former teammate Bill Robinson said Monday. "Those were precious. If he forgot to give you one, we'd be at his locker saying, 'Willie, I did this,' or 'Willie, I did that,' to get those stars from your leader and captain. That was special." Tanner agreed that Stargell's personal magnetism was a key ingredient in the clubhouse. "When you had Willie Stargell on your team, it was like having a diamond ring on your finger," Tanner said. Big and powerful at 6'4", 225 pounds, with a deep, commanding voice, Stargell intimidated pitchers even before they delivered the ball by pinwheeling the bat in rhythm with their delivery, despite being overshadowed at times by more prolific home run hitters Hank Aaron and Willie Mays, and by the play of his own Hall of Fame teammate Roberto Clemente. Stargell's sheer power was unrivaled. He hit 7 of the 18 homers over the right field roof at Pittsburgh's Forbes Field from 1909 to 1970, and once held the record for the longest homer in nearly half of the National League parks. "He didn't just hit pitchers, he took away their dignity," former Dodgers pitcher Don Sutton said. That's funny as hell. Oh my God. For nearly 30 years, Stargell was the only player to hit a ball out of Dodger Stadium, and he did it twice. If he hadn't played his first 8.5 season at cavernous Forbes Field, then the major's most spacious ballpark, he probably would have hit more than 600 homers. Stargell's first wife, Dolores, kept detailed statistics on every ball he hit and estimated he would have had 22 more homers in 1969 if the Pirates had played in Three Rivers Stadium, which opened a year later. Stargell hit 29 homers in 1969. "Nobody could hit a ball as far as Willie," Tanner said. "Nobody could hit a ball as far as Willie," Tanner said. In 1979, in Montreal, he hit a ball so far there that they painted the seat gold. "I went up there the next day and sat in that seat, and everybody on the field looked like puppets. That's how far it traveled." For his first 10 years in the majors, Stargell was content to play in Clemente's shadow. Even after he passed Clemente in production, Stargell reluctantly became the Pirates' leader upon Clemente's death in a December 31st, 1972 plane crash, saying, "There's a time in a man's life when he has to decide if he's going to be a man." Stargell wore the mantle of leadership as well as he did an outfielder's glove or a first baseman's mitt as an appreciated defensive player. Stargell enjoyed his best season in 1971 with 48 homers and 125 RBIs. However, he was 0 for 14 in the National League playoffs against the Giants and had only 1 RBI in the Pirates' 7-game World Series victory over favored Baltimore. He left center stage to the 38-year-old Clemente, who, fearful he would never play in another World Series, turned the postseason into a personal showcase of the grace, talent, and determination. Only 14 months later, Clemente was dead. In 1979, it was Stargell's turn to transform the World Series into a one-man act for an aging star. At 39, seemingly several years past his prime, and after knee injuries had robbed him of his mobility and some of his strength, Stargell's postseason performance was as every bit as haunting and as driven as Clemente's. After hitting 32 homers during a memorable regular season, Stargell had two more during an NL playoffs sweep of Cincinnati. Stargell also had three homers, including the decisive shot in Game 7 in Baltimore, as the Pirates rallied from a 3-1 deficit to wrest the World Series title from the favored Orioles. Only months from his 40th birthday, he made an unprecedented three-way sweep of MVP awards, sharing the NL award with Keith Hernandez of the St. Louis Cardinals and winning it in the playoffs and World Series, a feat still not matched. Stargell remains the oldest player to win an MVP award. Stargell played three or more seasons on arthritis-ravaged knees, the last at the request of former MVP teammate Dave Parker, but had only 14 more homers and 64 more RBIs. He was honored with two elaborate days during those last three seasons, and later turned down another. Born in Oklahoma on March 6, 1940, of African American and Seminole Indian descent, Stargell himself listed the date as March 7, 1941. He grew up in Oakland, California, where he was spotted by Pirates scout Bob Zuck, as he played on the same high school team as future major leaguers Tommy Harper and Kurt Martin. Stargell was subjected to racism in the minor leagues, where an angry fan once confronted him with a shotgun, but quickly won them over with his power and personality. While playing for the Pirates Farm Club in Asheville, North Carolina, he was nicknamed On the Hill Will for the long homers he hit into the hillside far beyond the right field fence. Despite playing the front half of his career in Forbes Field, a graveyard for left-handed hitters, with a right field power alley of 436 feet, Stargell averaged 24 homers from 1963 to 1969. Stargell's career took off after the Pirates vacated Forbes Field, vast acreage for symmetrical Three Rivers, and its 375-foot power alley. I was like a kid on Christmas Eve who couldn't wait to open his presents, Stargell said of the mid-1970s move to Three Rivers. I dreamed of the big crowds, artificial turf, our new tradition, and my increased home run power. Stargell never hit more than 33 homers in Forbes Field, but hit 48 in his first full season in Three Rivers in 1971, and had 125 from 1971 to 1973 until knee and elbow injuries cut into his production. He slumped badly in 1976 after Dolores developed a blood clot in her brain, but won the Comeback Player of the Year award in 1978 after hitting 28 homers and driving in 97 runs in 390 at-bats. That was really impressive. I was like, oh my God, I would have loved to have seen this guy play. I mean, anybody who saw Willie Stargell play, let me know in the comment section below because I want to hear your stories about Willie Stargell. I missed him. I was way too young to have seen him play, but I was also not really aware that this was his rookie card. I thought it was like a 1964 Topps. So when I was going through a box, I came across this card and I'm like, what is this? This is crazy. And the 1963 Topps, obviously, it's famous for having Pete Rose's rookie, basically the 63 rookie stars, the headshots. Now, a lot of collectors either like this set or they really don't like this particular set because of the headshots. I gotta be honest here. I think that if it was a lone card of the player with his full body, it'd probably be worth a lot more money. But considering that I had never actually seen this particular card up until, well, quite recently, in fact, maybe like a month or so ago that I just had to pull the trigger. And a lot of collectors and a few dealers that I spoke to about this particular card said that it is quite expensive, and it's not as expensive as the rose. The rose is really kind of historically important in the hobby. Really, I think only because it has been forged so much. It's one of the most forged cards in the hobby, especially in the 1980s and maybe even the 1990s. Whereas I don't think that anybody's going to forge a Willie Stargell rookie, but it's not the only rookie in that set that is, well, on a lot of want lists. I'm not really entirely sure if this is on a lot of want lists, but it's on my want list because I'm a huge fan of Willie Stargell. I'm also a real big fan of Tony Oliva here too, and this is his rookie. Again, I had never seen this card before, and that's one of the fun things about being a vintage collector, or maybe even a modern collector too, is that I've never, there's cards out there that I've never actually seen. I don't know what is out there. I've never seen everything. So coming across cards like this is really kind of interesting to me, and I had to pull the trigger on both of them. Uh, just for maybe a context here, the Tony Oliva, from what I've to understand, is that it is a little less expensive, not as difficult to find as the Willie Stargell rookie here, and it's this is actually quite expensive. The dealer that I bought this off of had another one, in fact, and he had a sticker of 600 bucks. And another dealer friend of mine found one of these in a 10-cent box, and it was the most expensive card that he ever sold. Aside from other Willie Stargell cards, I don't think you can have a hard time finding his cards. Uh, there are a few here that might be a little more difficult to try to find in really decent condition, such as the 1971. But again, I always bring a black light with me when I go for some of these cards. Other than that, like I don't think that you're gonna have a difficult time with this particular card. I don't think that he has any short prints that I'm aware of. I'm not even sure that his rookie is a short print, though it could be. I just don't know, to tell you the truth. And again, like I don't know everything, but I try to tend to lean on others that do with their experience. But my experience with uh, Willie Stargell's rookie is very limited, in fact, because I've just never seen it before. And then the 1968 tops, and the 1968 tops, again, for me, it's kind of hit or miss, really. I'm starting to like it more and more, only because like the historical connections. My dad graduated high school in 1968, and he spoke about the year being very volatile, to say the least. And historically, it's I think a kind of a historical year, baseball wise too. The Tigers actually won the World Series in '68, but from what I know about 1968 comes from my family, who is uh, present in 1968, and I wasn't even a twinkle in anybody's eye. So, 1968 tops also is very interesting because you have the Venezuelan. I think it's the last year for Venezuelan, and I'm not sure that Stargell has a Venezuelan. If you guys in the comment section below can tell me if he does, that might be something that I might want to go for. And then I believe Milton Bradley also, but I'm not entirely sure if Willie Stargell is in the Milton Bradley either. Again, the 1967s, it's a great set. I usually find these cards pretty sharp, in fact, which is kind of unusual compared to, say, like the 1966 here. And again, I don't have a 1966 regular on hand, although I just did purchase one. And again, one of my favorites right here. This is a great set if you're just coming into like the 1960s, wanting to buy a card or get into 1960s baseball cards, 1965 might be your best bet, only because you have to start somewhere. And so I really like the design of the 1965 tops. I think it's a great design for the decade, and you might be surprised at how much you really enjoy this set. And yeah, good luck if you're gonna go for that set. I'm not a set collector. I have a very short attention span to building sets, but I know a lot of people who do really enjoy building sets just for the challenge alone. And some of the high numbers of these, especially like the 1972 tops high numbers, are nearly impossible. But again, he's not in any high numbers that I'm aware of, except for his rookie. And then obviously the 1964 1964 tops for me, I didn't really think too much of it as a kid, mostly because I had never collected cards from the 1960s when I was a kid. 1950s, 1930s, 40s, and I really started my vintage hobby journey, if you will, as a pre-war collector early on. So like from age 12 to I don't know, maybe 22 or so. And it's only been in recent times that I've gotten into the 1960s baseball and tops and Philadelphia uh, for football. But a lot of these are really cheap, and you guys might enjoy uh, the well, the cheapness factor, if you will, for a lack of a better term. Um, Collecting vintage doesn't have to be expensive. And if you are a fan of history, then, especially like being a fan of the Pirates, as I'm sure many of you are, you really might like to own a couple of cards of Willie Stargell here. And I, um, I always liked his story, and I really wanted to share that with you guys today. So if you guys have uh, any stories about Willie Stargell or collecting Willie Stargell's cards or other players from the 1960s and 70s Pirates, let me know in the comment section below. I'd love to hear what you guys have to say. And I appreciate you stopping by, and I will talk to you in another video. Have a good one, guys. Thanks. Bye.